Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh. Okay, so welcome. Um, I heard you say that you were between ancient Greece and ancient Egypt. You were interested in ancient Egypt. And I was thinking about, hmm, I was thinking about how I really wish I could take you to a museum. Um, but I can't. So instead, I am going to be the museum. You're thinking to yourself, well, Carlos, how are we going to do that? Well, I know you were discussing the pyramids, and I thought I could take you to the pyramids. So this game is based in ancient Egypt around the Ptolemaic dynasty, so around the time of Cleopatra. By this point, the pyramids are already quite old. But this game was created with an eye for historical accuracy, and in fact has been used for educational purposes in the past, so I reckon I can use it to discuss ancient Egypt, and not only that, to give you an idea of what it actually looked like to be there. This game is Assassin's Creed Origins, developed by Ubisoft. So this is an early pyramid. I believe this is the Menkaure pyramid. And very close by we might find the pyramid of Khufu. The reason I started here and not there is because this pyramid looks a little more like what the ancient Egyptians would have seen early on. So, in Egypt, funerary practices were to bury the dead in the desert. You know, there's not a lot of fertile land in Egypt, so wasting fertile land just didn't make any sense. So, originally, people were just kind of put out in the desert. The Egyptians also had a strong belief that a part of your ka, or your soul, lived inside of your body. So even when you were mummified, or even when you died, a bit of your soul would remain in your body, which is why Egyptians were so keen on preserving your body, because it would really suck to go to the afterlife and then find out that your body is like just rotting and gross and wet. So those who could afford to would preserve their bodies as long as possible. And they would be buried with their stuff, because they would need it in the afterlife. So, Egyptians began getting more interested in creating protective structures for their burials. And the first type of protective burial was called a mastaba. So a mastaba is a building kind of like this one, where you had originally just one tier. It was just like a big trapezoid kind of building. And in the middle of it, you'd have maybe a little burial area and a chapel for the family to go in and worship. So as time grew on, we developed into mastabas that were more like this one, where you see there's one on top of the other and then one on top of that. And eventually, we started developing mastabas that looked more like that one over there. Give me a sec to call my horse. There we go. That way, that way we won't have to, like, walk there. That would be really slow. So, this. Yeah, I know, fire horse. So as you can see, we're getting a little closer here to the pyramid model. So this stopped being a mastaba at this point, but it's a stepped pyramid. So you can see how it's still kind of holding on to that mastaba shape. Then eventually, we get something that looks like this. This is Djoser's pyramid, and it's famous because it's bent. So originally it was being built on a certain angle and then it just was kind of unstable. Sorry, some people are trying to kill me. I'm just gonna ignore them. So midway through construction they adjusted. They were like, you know what? Nah. And they made it a little bit steeper, or less steep rather, so that you know, so that it wasn't terrible. And by this point, people who were rich enough, like Sneferu and Djoser, to get a pyramid, people who were rich enough to get a pyramid were also rich enough to afford getting an actual bona fide temple. So by the time of this type of pyramid, there weren't really chapels inside. Instead, there were temples outside, in large courtyards. So something that we don't see in modern day, and that people didn't see even in the time of this game's setting, is that style of courtyard. It's not daytime yet, so I don't want to necessarily take you to, the Giza pyramids yet. But I will show you around, because what is important, I think, is that sometimes we think of the pyramids as kind of like isolated, just in the middle, it's just a big triangle. But they were part of huge temple complexes. There was a bunch of stuff and buildings because people wanna, you know, boast and be fancy and bougie, while also being dead. So here we are at another, and the sun is gonna be rising soon, which is good, because I do think that the full effect can only be appreciated when it's daytime. So this pyramid here, you'll notice that this one's a little bigger. And, you know, they weren't developed, like, one after the other. There were centuries and decades and a lot of time between them, and a lot of architecture slash, design and engineering that went into making these. And, in fact, that leads me to my next point, which is, how the heck did people even make these? And I'll just stand here while we wait. The reality is that it was really hard to make something like a pyramid. And we don't actually know how they made them, okay? We know what they're made out of. We know, like what the techniques for making the bricks, and how much manpower they would have needed, and where the bricks come from, and like what the quarries are that they were like taken out of, but how they stacked all the bricks to make this shape is unknown to us. We have no idea. We have a bunch of theories. The main theory is that they used a system of inward ramps. So if you imagine the base of the pyramid from the inside, imagine like a ramp going all the way down one side, and then a little bit higher up this side, and then it wasn't aliens, and then a little bit higher on this side and this side until it gets to the top. And that is our current most popular theory. Is it true? What? I don't know. Who knows? We don't. So I know there's a way for me. I feel like there was a way to advance time. And instead I'm just standing here being like, Jesus Christ. Please come up, fucking son. I don't want to wait anymore. So... Well, the guy in the tomb is dead. So, the mummies don't... They're not keen on speaking. So... You'll notice that these places also aren't quite abandoned. There's clearly signs of activity around here. And that's because these were areas that still had activity. You'll also notice that there's trees. We have this image of the desert as barren. Well, I mean, if I can be honest with you, Sid, I've never actually met a mummy. So, I don't know. Haven't really had the chance. But if a mummy ever showed up in my life, sure, I would do my best to be nice to them. Okay, let's get my horse back and, see if we can see a few other pyramids. Oh, here. So this, by the way, is the city of Memphis. And at this time, maybe I'll take you there in a little bit, but at this time it was populated, so you'll see it's pretty light over there. Oh, and the dawn is coming up. Perfect. Yeah, Egypt is, especially areas like Memphis, you'll notice the big cities are always around the rivers, because big cities in general are around sources of water. And when you are in the city, also you'll see, not that far from the pyramids, and we already have signs of population. That's the reason I wanted to come down here, is to show you something that would have looked a little more contemporary to the period of the game. So first off, instead of the weathered limestone that we saw before, you'll see this is painted, and not just like a little bit, but a lot. It's richly decorated with beautiful linens, and this is historically accurate to what we would have seen. Like, you can see fine meshwork, offerings, beautiful pottery, and in general, really, really cool stuff. And this is not unusual. Yeah, it is really pretty. I love this game. This is a statue of Apis, the bull god. There's two of them here. You see a little, like, pool here. They're richly festooned. Gods were, like, in small temples like this, gods were often, like, this was a place that people would walk to and worship at, day after day after day. And therefore you see, like, it is clearly this is a place that people visit. But enough about that. Now that the sun is up, I want to show you the more fancy stuff. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm gonna get back on my horse. There are some sphinxes here. And if you follow them, you end up in the Sakata Nome. Nome just means, like, town in Egyptian. And Sakata is actually where we get the word Sahara from. There's a little pathway.
Hey!
Here Oh, whoops. Oh, sorry. Nope, out of my way. Bye. Sorry. No. Bye. Bye. So as we're being attacked, they're not really going to beat me. That's like the end of the game for me. Here is another stepped pyramid. Again, one of those in-between pyramids that came between the sloped ones and the mastabas. And I will now travel. I'm being a little coy here, and kind of obstructing what I'm trying to show you. But we are going to head to the Giza complex, which I'm sure you've heard of. The pyramids of Giza. There's 3 of them. One's really big. It is the only standing wonder of the ancient world. And is the big Sphinx in this game? Yes, it is. I can take you to that as well. So the Great Sphinx is actually here as well. So, okay, now that we're a little closer, I can show them to you. These are the pyramids of Giza. Ta-da! There's one of them, there's the other, there's the other. And before we get closer, what do you notice about them?
Whoa. Yeah. Yeah.
They are big. What else do you notice maybe if you compare them to what they look like now? Yes, they are decorated. So we're gonna climb up this one. First of all, you will notice they are considerably more massive than the other ones. And as you mentioned, they are decorated. They're covered in polished sand limestone, sorry. And so here you'll notice like you've got a darker color, and as you come up, you got this very bright white limestone covering. And the reason that it was colored that way is because they wanted the pyramids to shine in the sun. And if you look at this stone, as I point the sun at it, it is very bright. And in fact, we know that it looked that way, and not the way we see them today, because historians made a point of mentioning how fucking bright these things were. These pyramids were especially fancy. Over the years, because the stones that covered kind of like the front of the pyramids have been stripped away to build other things, just through time and weathering, they are like extremely old. Like 5,000 years old by now. And so yeah, like you end up with these beautifully like bright pyramids, and you'll notice the other ones look the same. Another thing that you can't tell on this one, but that you could maybe on the bigger one, which is that one, is that the top of the pyramid, that block over there, is covered in electrum. Electrum is a gold and silver alloy. There's a big metal tiny pyramid on top of the pyramid that is just covered in metal. So extra shiny. Again, those have been stolen over the millennia. These are just recreations of what we believe they looked like. And then this leads me to the question that you had as well, which is, how do you fucking get in there? We are gonna go in and find out. There's some desert shots for you. Oh. We may have just had a glitch. I am so sorry about that, but we are back. Da-da-da-da. Again, you'll notice these like little bits of stone. The thing about sand is that it's, you know, it's coarse, gets everywhere. But more importantly, it buries things. So for example, you mentioned the Sphinx. The Sphinx was actually buried under sand for so long that people didn't even know it was there. And then one day, they were like, oh shit, look at that! Huh. And so what we see right now is the result of a bunch of unburying. So you may be asking yourself, how the hell do you get in to the pyramid? So if we go... If we go to the front of it, let's go to the front of it. There is an entrance. Which is right there. Let's go towards the entrance.
Whoa.
Just gonna take the short route over here. So this was like the path you would have taken, say, if you were trying to get into the pyramid. What you'll notice is this whole area is barred off. There is actually no way to get into the pyramid naturally, because as soon as it was finished, they just blocked that shit up. They were like, "Nuh-uh, you're not getting into this pyramid. Looters, fuck you. XOXO Egyptians." So what happened? People have been wanting to get into this shit for a long time. You can probably imagine. And they didn't succeed for quite a while. Up until later on. In fact, some of these pyramids, you can't see the game because this is like ancient Egypt, but in modern day, a lot of the pyramids have actual damage from TNT, from people trying to blast their way into the pyramid. Unsuccessfully, I might add. But we have found bits of the pyramids that are like, I'll show you right here as we go up. And again, you'll notice that like decoration with the limestone being polished or unpolished. These cracks are just there for me to be able to climb up. Whether they were actually there or not, like, these are just a design choice. And also understand that this isn't a historical approximation, not a... We obviously don't have pictures of them at the time. But as we go up, you'll notice that there's, like, these bits there where, like, people were kind of being metally. They were like, shit, I want to get into the pyramid. How the fuck do I get into the pyramid? And eventually that led to this bit here. So not too far off the ground of the Great Pyramid, we find this hole, which used to be just about the size, like, of maybe a person to crawl into, but eventually became this big. This is what's known as the Robber's Entrance. We don't believe that this was naturally there. we think that people, looters, found maybe a flaw in the design and exploited it. But today, this is how you get into the pyramid, is through the robber's entrance. Let me take out my torch so you can see. So you'll see there's this diagonal pathway that goes all the way down. And at this point we are like underground. Another thing to note, which we will see as we get further into here. As I think about it, we actually might not be in the right pyramid. Give me one moment. Are you the Great Pyramid of Giza? Yes. God damn it. Well, never mind. This is the tomb of Khafre. And this is the tomb of Menkaure. Basically, this one was built first, then this one, then this one. This is the one we want to go to. And again, these were built around 3000 BC, so a very, very, very long time ago. In fact, it's a little different now, but at the time of this game's setting, the pyramids were just as old as this game setting is to us. Also, now that I'm at the Tomb of Khufu, you can see that electron covering. Ooh, fancy. Very, very shiny. Okay, let's make our way down. Whoosh. Okay, never mind. I went the wrong way. Let's go. I'm gonna make sure I don't have to like run. This is it's a big distance, Chief. You know what? Let's just do it. What the hell? What do we have to lose? Also, in case you were wondering, this is very fun. It's fucking pyramid surfing. Okay, so here we are at the actual Pyramid of Khufu. And, I mean, you can't blame me, they all look really similar. Do we know that for sure? The answer is we don't know any of this for sure. We know that Egyptians tended to, like, rather than under-decoration. So it is an informed decision to do something like that. Whether it actually happened or not, we will never know. But the inside, because we do actually still have the inside, is much more accurate. The point of making the exterior look like this is to remind people that, and you'll notice here the stripping, right? So underneath the fancy smooth stone is basically just a very big, very complicated stone pyramid, like just stepped pyramid. Which reminds us once again about the like origin of the pyramids in stepped designs. So here we are again, Djoser's pyramid, or sorry, Khufu's pyramid. And this whole thing was built to, as I said, basically just be a tomb. A big question that people ask is, why are pyramids triangles? Our working theory is the Egyptians had a very strong sun worship as part of their pantheon. For a while, in fact, King Akhenaten instituted a monotheism that revolved around a sun god. Didn't go very well for him. But, you know, for a time, this was the way that Egypt was ruled. Aha, so here's the official entrance. You'll see it right here. And as I mentioned, it's all tiled up. So there's these large vertical stones above the entrance that pretty much just prevent entry. But below that entrance... we have... Leave me alone. You asked for it. You asked for it. You asked for it. I didn't even wanna... Leave me alone. Sorry about that. Here we go. Very small, very cumbersome, and when we go in here, as you can tell, clearly this wasn't built to be an entrance as grand as a king would observe. This is an entrance that a thief would build. And in the actual, in real life, this has one passage that leads to the upper part of the pyramid and the lower part of the pyramid. In this game, they divided it into two. So there's this passage here, and this passage here. I'm gonna put my torch down, since I actually think that there are torches in here. Immediately changed my mind. Oh, so here's where the actual built-up pathway ends, and the actual path begins. So if you look at this vault here, you'll notice it's corbelled, which is to say that it, brazier saw, corbels, which is to say that you have these, like, kinda like notches on the walls that get narrower and narrower the higher you get up. At the topest level, the highest level, it's about 1 meter from part to part. This is the biggest corbelled vault in ancient history. So if you look up there, that's pretty tall for a vault, especially stone mountain. Aside from that aesthetic determination, the chambers inside here, so there are traps. They aren't nearly as fancy as they are in movies. You'll see here, this is a tomb, right? And, a little hidden entrance in here to some treasure. Ooh, gold. Kings were often buried with a bunch of treasure. Yeah, so there were, like, rudimentary traps. But there weren't the kind of traps that you would imagine, like in Indiana Jones and stuff. Here's some, orange stuff. Here's another sarcophagus. And you'll notice there's a bunch, and I mean a bunch of little nooks and crannies. And this is how pyramids were built, with all these, like, little fucking nooks and shit. There's a slope down. I don't know if I want to take that slope, because it will probably take me to an area I can't easily get out of. And I still have things to show you in the Pyramid of Giza. So obviously when we found these, a lot of these treasure rooms were empty, or mostly empty, because they had been long looted. Some of them had been looted by thousands of years of, like, warfare and just changes in regimen. Some of them were looted by colonialists. Oh, here's actually another thing. Around the pyramids, there are these holes. And we don't actually know what these holes were for. We theorize they were for ventilation because we have found that they move diagonally up and out into the walls of the pyramids. They may have had some sort of religious purpose. Again, we don't actually know what those holes are for. Another thing you'll notice about the pyramids is that they are, in general, and I say in general, except for the main pathways, they're generally not decorated. So, in movies, you often see people go into a pyramid and there's just hieroglyphs all over the walls. This was not the case, except in like the actual important parts of the pyramid. So now we're gonna go down here, under the vault, see what we see. Just crawling, crawling. Oh, there's a little narrower path here. And yet another room. We do see more of those. Here's another one of those holes. Thought maybe that would take me somewhere, but it doesn't. So, yet another chamber. And definitely Joser's Pyramid did not have traps. Most of the places, because like pyramids were already really hard to build to begin with, so building them with traps would have been even harder. But in the Valley of the Kings, which is an area in the hills of Egypt, there were definitely booby traps. Okay, so now we're gonna go the other route. This is gonna take us down. And as I said, in real life, there's just one pathway. The game designers chose to make two for convenience sake. But this one will take us to the lower part of the pyramids. So we're going deep, and by this point we are definitely underground. So, oh, what's that? Just a hole. And here we are, almost at the very bottom of the pyramid. This is like foundation level. We're gonna go down there. And this piece isn't actually there, this is just in-game. There isn't actually a weird glowy thing at the bottom of the pyramids. But there is that room that we passed by. And we don't actually know what that was for. Our theory is that it was just another place to store treasure. Again, by the time we showed up to this pyramid, it had just been... It's a big, obvious triangle, you know? Like, it's really hard, I assume, for people not to want to loot a place like this. But in general, that is what's inside of a pyramid. With historical context and with contemporary visuals. So now that you have seen the pyramid, I would like to take you to the Sphinx, if you would like that. Let me figure out where that is. I forgot. I haven't played this game in a long time. There's still quests I have to do, and I've been just ignoring them. Let's see. I know it's in Memphis, but where in Memphis? Alright, let me see. Okay. And okay. Sweet. So we are in the rightish area already, which is good for us. We are going to go to here. Put. Okay, so here we are at the Great Sphinx. And you're probably like, well, where's the Great Sphinx? God.
Don't kill you!
No, don't kill me. I'm too sexy. You don't hurt me here. That's a generality. Ow. I know it's around here. This area is literally called the Great Sphinx. Oh, there it is. So the first thing you should... Oh my god. I'm sorry, you're beautiful. You're just absolutely gorgeous. Oh my gosh.
Come out here! If you've got any balls!
You are so beautiful. Oh my god. Whew. Okay. Let me get my head back in the game. So, here we are. The first thing you will notice about the Great Sphinx is it's not that big. So as you can see, it's partially buried in the sand. Today, the claws of
the Great Sphinx
are,
It is smaller than I expected.
we know, like, the claws are, like, basically you stand with your head closer to the paw. But this is the Great Sphinx, and the first thing you note about it is it's colored, like most things were. And that, again, it's not that big. It's just kind of like, okay. Most of the ways to get inside...
A hidden entrance. How long has this been here?
At this point, we're hidden. Today, we have opened certain ones of them. Yes, the idea of statues as being unpainted just came from seeing them sun-bleached. We know for a fact that they were painted because we find paint remnants on them. Another thing that's notable about the Sphinx is it had a nose. It was blasted off through time. You know, happens inside of the Sphinx, in the back, but it's like, for game reasons, I can take you in there just because it looks cute, but it's not actually, it wasn't actually there. It isn't actually there. It's just for game reasons. So here we are inside of it, and one of the first things I'm noticing here is this is a topic. Oh shh! I didn't mean to do that. Oh dear. Oh no. That's better. I just wanted to zoom in a little. That's a canopic jar. And canopic jars were really important to Egyptians because that's where they kept the guts of their loved ones. They preferred to just, I guess, separately keep the guts and stuff of their...
Ah, a dead end. Does not make sense.
Loved
there
ones.
must be a way forward.
There's a mummy, as you can see. The funerary mask, and just in general wrapped in mummy stuff. Um, there is a way forward. So in the game, you go down here, and it's like, oh wow, intrigue. Oh wow, mystery. And you can tell they're definitely going for more of a artistic vibe here. Like you have those hieroglyphs I was talking about, like those weren't really that common. In Memphis at least, they were not that common. So you have this like passageway, and they're like, ooh, mystery. And you go through here, and there's this like,
Bayamon. What is this?
ooh, a mysterious place. Ooh, whatever could be in here. Oh no, I fell down. Oh wow, more stuff. And so like, yeah, basically this is all game stuff. But it looks kind of cool, so I thought I'd show it to you. Anyway, that's my tour of the pyramids. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.